NBCSportsInferno.com presents another edition of ZRadio with Mike Ackerman. I'm Corey Schrader. If you want to call in, give us a call at 309-524-5558. Again, that's 309-524-5558. And Mike, we had a gut punch weekend between our teams.
It was a gut punch weekend. Yeah, it was tough.
But then the Cubs followed up with what I consider confusing.
Well, I've been going back and forth with some people on Twitter, and there's some people that agree with us and some people that don't. The Cubs just signed, for people that don't know what we're talking about, they just signed Ben Zobrist, who's 37 years old, to a 4-year contract. And it looks like by all reports that are breaking across Twitter right now that Starlin Castro has also been traded to the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I was reading that the Cubs were waiting for a trade to sign a free agent. And Zobrist's name kept going across, so I thought, okay, a trade for Hayward. There we go.
Right.
But we just traded a 25-year-old three-time All-Star for a 38-year-old 4-year, $10 million contract, whatever, $13 million contract a year. What the hell is going on?
Well, he'll play this year as 37, and then next year he'll be 38. But he'll play through. I mean, you're gonna be paying him through 40 years old. I mean, that's just the way it is. Unless there's something to the contract that we this is basically happening as we're getting ready to go on the air, so we haven't seen all the details. I don't know if the last 2 years are player options. I don't know exactly how that or what they have there. So I don't. It's hard to say right now. But if it's truly a 4-year deal for $56 million. That's 14 per, obviously, with the simple math, and well, that's gonna be a lot to be paying a 40-year-old here in a couple of years.
I'm confused. I know he's a high on base percentage guy. He's not powerful. He's kind of old school baseball, 1983 Bobby Dernier type but slower.
Well,
I'm lost.
And just look at the Castro trade. It says the Cubs have traded him for Adam Warren. Now I got to look him up because I have no idea who that is. Do you?
Well, Adam, he's a pitcher.
Yeah. He's a right-handed pitcher. Is he a relief pitcher? Is he a starter? What is he?
Yeah, he's 28. He's a starter. Average numbers, I guess. This is like his first year starting. He was a reliever. Now he's a starter. 28 years old. Last year he went 7-7, 3.29 ERA, 130 innings pitched. Okay. 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. 1.165 WHIP.
Well, and he looks like he started the season, looks like as a reliever, and then he maybe went into the rotation later because he only started 17 games, but he had 43 appearances.
Right.
114 innings, less hits than innings pitched. I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, he had a decent ERA, 3.29. 104 strikeouts and 131 innings pitched. Yeah, I mean, is this the Cubs? Is this going to be the Cubs' fourth starter?
Yeah, I mean,
he's got good stats. I mean, his last 3 years, he's had an ERA under 3.39. Most of them being as a reliever.
So, okay, here, it's almost like they signed Zobrist for $13 million a year to be a utility guy.
No, because they're going to put him at second base.
I know, but and then Baez the center. Did they just spend their money? They just spend their way out of Hayward for Zobrist? Hayward, even if you signed him to 10 years, $21 million contract, when his contract's over, he would be Ben Zobrist's age.
Yeah.
That's a smarter buy, and you can backload that sucker.
I don't know what's going on right now. There's got to be something else, doesn't there?
Has to be. Because right now, I'm upset. I don't believe in Theo right now.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I don't understand it. I don't
You
understand.
you increased your payroll by, let's see, what was Starling getting? Maybe $12 million. So you increased your payroll by $1 million for Zobrist, but you shot up in age by 13 years. And I know Zobrist is a high. His on base percentage is pretty good, but
here's what
I'm not a believer.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing I like about Zobrist is he does not strike out much at all. That's the best thing you can say about Zobrist. I mean, when you look at his which is something the Cubs need. When you start looking at his stats, he's an on base guy. He's a guy that can stick at the top of the order, and he's not going to steal you a million bases by any stretch. But he's going to be a little bit of pop. I mean, he's going to be Dexter Fowler-ish in his ability to get on base, I believe, and probably home run wise, he's somewhere in there. Although, I mean, last year he had 13 home runs. But when you look at his strikeout total, the highest he's ever struck out is 97 times back in 2012. Last year he only struck out 33 times once he got to Kansas City. That's pretty good. I mean, that is something that the Cubs need big time. I'm not saying I still agree with it. I'm saying that's something that the Cubs need is somebody who puts the bat on the ball. But I'm with you. My reasoning for not liking it. Okay, now here's kind of where I'm wondering where this is going to go. Now do you take Warren and Baez and flip Warren to go along with Baez and go get Shelby Miller, Tehran, Tyson Ross, Carrasco, Matt Moore, somebody like that? Do you take that and go get another player?
Yeah, but if you get rid of Baez, then you got to get. I'm fine with trading Baez. But now that you don't have Castro, it kind of concerns. I guess it kind of concerns me. But now if you trade Baez, you have to get that center fielder. So I don't know. One day you hear, like yesterday, I hear the Cubs have. The agents out there are saying, "Don't let the Cubs fool you. They got money to spend. They got more than what they've projected out to everybody." So, do they have more money to spend? Are they going to go after Hayward? God, I'd be more excited if they went after Hayward and then traded Baez for a pitcher. But then the last rumor was the Braves trading Miller to the Cubs for Baez was dead because the Braves were asking for Bryant. Well, are you going to give up Bryant for Miller?
Are they insane?
Yeah. I mean,
that's insane to think that the Cubs would give up Bryant for Miller. Are the Braves in this universe?
Well, I was doing the same thing, but then I thought to myself, I was always taught it doesn't hurt to ask, even if it sounds ridiculous. Maybe they thought they were dealing with Jerry Angelo. Remember when Jerry Angelo forgot to check the box for
yeah, no kidding.
Roosevelt Colvin or whatever? One of those two. But it's just like and I'm looking at Twitter, and people are all like, "Oh, this is great news for the Cubs," and a lot of other fans are going, "Oh, man, this is horrible. I wish he would have went to the Mets." And I'm thinking 38.
Right. For 4 years. Now, everything that I'm reading is the Cubs believe they have a pitcher within the picture. I mean, or they've got a window within the window. That basically they've got these next 2 years, because after these next 2 years, then people are going to start getting then the guys that they have are going to be pretty expensive. Sources: Diamondbacks agree to acquire Shelby Miller from Braves pending a review of medical records.
Well, there you go.
The Yankees didn't get any money
I
from
think
the
the
Cubs.
Cubs are going to look at Cleveland if they're going to get some pitching.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other way you can look at it, though, too, is this Warren doesn't make a lot of money. You just got rid of $9 million a year, $38 million over the next 4 years. That $9 million, is that enough money saved to go get Hayward?
Yeah, but did you save $9 million? Because you just added 13.
Well, with just Castro, no, I agree. So you added 14. So subtract the 4. So basically, you're paying $4 million, and this is the same time frame. You're paying, $4 extra million over that time frame per year. So $16 million extra dollars. Then you have Lackey, who's $32 million.
Mm-hmm.
So $16 million per. So you added $20 million to your roster, basically, with those two. And what did we talk about earlier, Corey? We talked about the Cubs had about $20 million to spend to get back up to last year's levels. Isn't that about right?
Right.
So now the talk was they had an extra 15 to 20 million to go get somebody else. So now you're just back up to last year's levels. Now you can go and, if it's 20 million, can you go get Hayward?
I think they should.
Because if you don't go get Hayward, you've got to go get a center fielder. Then you still have to have a center fielder. Do you see if you can get Fowler at 2 years, and then the front of your lineup is Fowler and Zobrist?
I think this Zobrist signing will look a lot better if they got Hayward.
Oh, I agree.
Because Zobrist, the high on-base percentage guy, doesn't strike out. Hayward has a high on-base percentage. He's got a little more pop in the bat. And then that's going to form the power of the lineup with a Soler, a Rizzo, a Bryant, a Schwarber.
Well,
I mean, that outfield could be deadly with Schwarber, Hayward, and Soler.
Look at that lineup. Zobrist batting first, playing second. Hayward second in center field. Bryant third at third base. Rizzo fourth at first base. Soler fifth in right field. Well, shit, that's not. You don't even have Schwarber in there. Schwarber sixth in left field. Montero eighth behind the plate. And then the pitcher. And then Russell batting ninth again at shortstop. That is the best lineup in baseball. If you can get Hayward.
Yeah, I mean, Hayward would be great. Hayward would be great, and then if you really wanted to, you could possibly move Baez for another controllable pitcher.
Right.
Good controllable pitcher.
Right. 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 That's what you're looking at now is if you don't – or do you have Baez be your Ben Zobrist? When once a week Chris Bryant gets a day off, once a week once a week Russell gets a day off, once a week. I mean, he could really almost get 500 at bats by giving everybody a day off a week.
Yeah.
And here's another report. Cubs have been in steady contact with agent for Jason Hayward, sources say. Unclear if they'll continue pursuit post-Zobrist signing.
That's what ticks me off, though.
Right.
That's what will tick me off. It actually kind of puts a sour taste in my mouth right now as it stands. I don't like it.
Yeah,
you got older, and you paid them a lot.
I don't like it if this is it. I don't like it if this is it.
That Hayward signing will make it better because the picture looks more complete with that. Without Hayward, right now, that it's just I don't know. I feel
you got to have it, but here's the thing though: you have to get a center fielder somewhere. I mean, now you don't have a center fielder, and from the sounds of it, they've said they're not going to have. They're not ready for Almora yet. So what you can do is, if it is Hayward, you play him in center field for a year or two. An infielder, Brendan Ryan, is the other one. I don't know who Brendan Ryan is. If it is Hayward, then let's see. If it is Hayward, then you play him in center field for a year or two. Then you put Schwarber behind the plate when Montero's contract ends. You move Hayward to right, Soler to left, and Almora in center. Just got it all figured out. Brendan Ryan is 33 years old. 2015 or last year. Let's see.
The Cubs got him?
Yeah, Cubs got Brendan Ryan. And he's the second pitcher in that, or the second player in that deal. Well, this is a good deal because Brendan Ryan last year hit 229 with 0 home runs in 47 games and 96 at bats. He had 22 hits last year.
Wow, I don't like this at all.
No, like I said, I'm guessing there's more to come. If it was just this, I have a problem with it. I find it hard to believe that this is it, though. I'll tell you what, though, the Diamondbacks got better. They got Shelby Miller and Zach Greinke. Plus, they've got a couple of young pitchers.
Out the West.
Yeah,
kind of makes the Dodgers look a little crappy, and it made the Giants overpay for Jeff Samardzija.
Right. I think the Diamondbacks might be the best team in that division now.
Yeah, I read a report where the Cubs matched the money-wise for Jeff.
Just not years.
But they were going to do 5 years on him. If the Cubs are saying, and they know him more than anybody, if
right.
The Cubs are saying no to 5 years. Yeah, but I can't question the Giants too much because they go to the frickin' World Series every other year.
Right.
Probably because they don't sign Ben Zobrist types at 38-year-old for frickin' 4 years and all that money.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher to me. It's a head scratcher. I don't get it. I said it on Twitter this morning, and some people agree with it. Some people, and then I said it again this afternoon. And they had some people not agreeing with it. That I did not. I would have rather had Alex Gordon than Zobrist.
Yeah, and things started out good because as much as personality-wise I disagree with John Lackey, I have a problem with him, but at least he got a solid pitcher for only 2 years.
2 years.
So, that can help the Cubs in a lot of ways. And a lot of that money is paid this year, I guess, is from what I read. So they front-loaded his contract. And, of course, they said a no-trade clause, which it's a 2-year contract. Cubs ain't going to,
right,
trade him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know.
Well, my personal opinion is there's got to be more coming. If you know what it feels like to me, it feels like before the 2007 season. Was it before 2007 or 2008? I can't remember when they signed Alfonso Soriano. When they thought they had a couple-year window there, and they signed Soriano, and they signed him to a lot more than anybody else was going to pay just to get him. That's kind of what this feels like. It feels like the Cubs are saying, okay, we've got this couple years. We don't care what happens in 3 years. We care about what's happening right now. We care about what's happening right now in these next 2 years. And we don't care about it feels like they've gone completely in the direction where they talked about long-term success. They've kind of gone away from that and said, okay, we want to win in these next 2 years.
Well, here's the other thing. I would have been just fine if the Cubs would have kept Castro. I'd be fine with that. Traded Baez for a pitcher and signed Hayward and be done with it, along with Lackey. At that point, good off season.
Right.
But this one just threw me for a loop, man. And I saw it on Twitter the last, couple hours. At work, I was kind of, peeking in. And I saw Zobrist's name come up, and I thought, no, please no.
Right.
And then I thought, okay, well, if they get this guy, then maybe it's just like a 2-year, $15 million deal for 36. And then right before we came on the air, that popped over, and I thought, you got to be kidding me.
Right. Right.
And then I knew in order to get Zobrist, they were trying to get rid of Castro. And I thought, God, why are you so high on Zobrist? Now, and I know Castro struggled, and I know he's new to the position at second base this year, but he held his own. He rebounded. He's only 25. I hope this doesn't come back to haunt the Cubs.
Well, and the other thing with Castro, too, is depending on what he wanted, I felt like they kind of didn't owe him by any stretch, but I thought that he handled the demotion in August as well as anybody humanly possible could handle that demotion.
And he just so conveniently happened to move residency in the off-season to the United States.
Right. Right.
So he doesn't get in trouble in the Dominican.
Right. No, he was doing everything that he was. I think he's going to come out and have a huge year. That's my opinion. Now, again, though, I can't get over the fact. The thing that I still like about Zobrist is the fact that he's a switch hitter and he doesn't strike out. I mean, when you look at his offensive numbers, they're going to be pretty similar to what Castro has done over the years. His averages are going to be pretty similar. With
he gets on base more.
Well, and he doesn't strike. I mean, the biggest thing is he doesn't strike out.
And he's not lazy.
Well, but I think Castro at second base would be a better second baseman. I think Castro was an exceptional second baseman. I know he had one game where he made like 3 errors, but I think for the most part, I think he's a good second baseman.
No, Yankees got good, and I hope this pitcher is. And that one ticked me off too, is when they were saying they were trading with the Yankees, and I'm thinking, who the hell is the Yankees going to offer? They buy everybody.
Right.
This is a Yankee signing, the Zobrist signing. I don't know.
You know what? I'm looking at this all wrong, though, too. I thought Zobrist was 37. Apparently, he's only 34. I was thinking Lackey before. You know what? It gets me. It makes me feel a little bit better.
Oh, he's only 34?
He's only 34.
Okay.
Yeah, he's only
That calms
34.
my anxiety down a little bit.
Yeah, at the end of the season, he was 34 years old. Boy, we just went off on a hook.
Paying this guy at 41 years old.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was just looking at stats on Baseball Reference, and I'm like, 34. I thought he was 37. I must have got him and Lackey confused. So, you know what? He's really still in his prime. You know, still when you look at the last couple of years, we'll see how he does. But again, I want to see if I want to see how I want to see what else they do. I mean, that's the big thing, is I want to see what else they do.
Someone tweeted, Brendan Ryan has the potential to be another Jonathan Herrera, but without all the fun.
Nice. Yeah, lots
I've
of
really got to do some work on this Adam Warren. He's young and controllable, and he's 28, and that fits the profile of Theo Epstein. 28, hitting your prime. You've got Lackey as your third starter. This guy could be your fourth starter. Something more's got to happen.
Yeah, because it's kind of unclear as to what they'll do with Lackey, or not Lackey, I'm sorry, Warren. Is he going to be, again, they could flip him, but also the Cubs don't have a lot of guys. They don't have any minor leaguers that are ready to play. They're ready to pitch. I mean, they've said that. So is he going to be this? Is he going to fill the role that he filled last year for the Yankees? I mean, he could be that swing guy, but I thought that's also what they promised to Cahill.
Well, and you're going to have to start ignoring tweets from the Yankees because they'll make Castro be the next biggest thing ever of all time.
Yeah.
But here's my thinking. My first reaction is the Cubs are done, except for minor tweaks. If that's the case, I'm still mad. Here's what I think the Cubs do. I think the Cubs will package Javier Baez and maybe a Jason Hamill to Cleveland. Now, granted, Cleveland, they don't know how to think. They can't spend any more money, and they need infielders. Javi Baez, they get one of their top pitchers. I don't know, or one of those guys. They take Jason Hamill. The Cubs will probably have to pay 75% of Hamill's contract,
right,
which is $9 million this year.
Right.
So that cuts the money down. I think that could help a lot. So you get a bona fide starter. So this Adrian Warren could be your fifth starter. And maybe him and Hendricks compete for that last spot. Warren has that bullpen experience, so maybe he goes to the bullpen.
Well, just seeing here.
This is it to get that pitcher from Cleveland, one of the pitchers from Cleveland.
Hamill throws, he throws pretty hard. He looks like he throws about 94. Let's see. The vertical movement is almost on par with Chris Young. Second way that compares his 94-mile-per-hour fastball velocity last year was 2 ticks above average for a righty. But that was in the pen. Early scouting reports had him low 90s, and we know that move from the pen to the rotation can cost you 7 miles per hour or 0.7 of a mile per hour on average. That means Warren would still have above average velocity. He'd still have the third inning that makes his fastball his newest sinker. That sinker doesn't have the drop of some of his premier sinkers in the game, about an inch less than average. It does have good fade. That's almost 2 inches of fade over average and full 4 inches more than his four-seam. Only 21 righty starters last year had a bigger gap in movement between their four-seam and two-seam, with Zach Greinke being the most similar. Change-up by almost every different way you can measure the change-up. Warren's change-up is good. It's got 2 inches more fade than your average righty, blah, 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 blah. It compares favorably, for example, to the changes thrown by Michael Wacha. Slider, in the scouting report linked above, Warren's slider is called a cutter, but in the blah, 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 thankfully it has some depth. It doesn't really compare his change-up to anybody. It talks about his curveball. It says linked above is the team had Warren put away the slider in order to work on the curve. What the pitcher got for his work was an average curve, like almost literally. The average righty, blah, blah. He could be. It says Shelby. They compare his curve to actually Shelby Miller. It says altogether now we've got a righty with above average fastball velocity and at least average command, a good change and an average slider, and a curveball that might only be average if it didn't entice worm burners at an elite rate. Can we find another pitcher that compares? If you go from strict comparison based on what Warren throws, there are 20 pitchers that come close. The 4 pitchers that stand out. Unfortunately, those pitchers are so far apart in quality that it doesn't help our case. Has Adam Warren, Zach Greinke, Kevin Correa, and Ulyss Chassin, who I've never heard of. It says he could be Kevin Correa or he could be Zach Greinke.
Yeah. Well, now, Royals, Cubs, and Giants are in on Gerardo Parra.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
Who's just average.
Well, if you're going to get him, you definitely aren't getting Hayward.
Yeah.
And I saw something earlier that said that they would sacrifice offense. They would sacrifice offense for defense in center field. So, that may be what they're doing. Parra was pretty good a couple years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's... Yeah, well, I mean, he was with Milwaukee last year and Baltimore. He's average, dude.
Well, but here's the thing, though. For Milwaukee, in 100 games in Milwaukee, he hit .328. But then when he went to Baltimore, when he went to the AL, he hit .268. Or .237, I'm sorry. He doesn't strike out much. Less than 100 times every year, except for twice. He hit 100 twice. Or hit 100 strikeouts twice, I should say. He hit 14 home runs, so average pop, or, And he's still youngish, too. OBP, where's his OBP sitting at? With Milwaukee last year, his OBP was .369. But that's by far the best it's ever been. His average is .320.
Because he came. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the year before it was .328, .318, .305, .308, .323. When he was with Arizona, .357. But then when he was with Baltimore in 55 games, he was .268.
Well, to me, if you were to get a guy like him, then you are gonna maybe put him at number 9. Let Russell come up and hit. The only good part I'd say about Parra is he's for a guy who's usually somewhere near the top of the order, he's usually got 50 or 60 or somewhere around 50, 60 RBIs every year. He doesn't walk much though, does he?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he doesn't walk at all hardly. Yeah, he's got to be the number 9 guy almost. Yeah, he's got to be the number 9 guy. He's only hit, last year he hit 14 home runs. But the year before that, he was just 9 home runs. And then he was 10, 15, or no, that's stolen bases, I'm sorry. 10, 7, 8, 3, 5. He's had some he had 5 triples last year. Stolen bases, where's he at? He had 14 stolen bases last year, so, not amazing by any stretch. I mean, to me, if you're going to sign him, you got to sign him cheap.
I mean, I guess defensively, Zobrist is better than Castro. Yeah, Parra's got to be cheap. Russell and Zobrist up the middle. I mean, that's pretty good defensively right there.
Right.
I guess you can't, discount the defense with that.
Well, and I think the thing I like about it is the only thing I do like about it is if you do this. Here's the other thing about it, though, too, that I wouldn't give away, and this could be where the Cubs are looking at it, too, is you sign Parra cheap, and then you don't guarantee him anything, and then you have Javier Baez working out in center field. It could be a thing where Baez plays against all the lefties in center field or something. Jesse Rogers is saying, and no, I don't think the Cubs. I think he's Sun Times beat writer, says I don't think the Cubs are done.
I hope they're not done. I mean, how old is Hayward? 26?
Yeah. Yeah. Players notified. Cubs interfered have agreed terms on 4-year contract through 2019 season. Starlin Castro trades official. He goes to Yankees. Yeah, but other than that, there's nothing. There's nothing that showing anything that's coming up here in the future. Like somebody said, they got more versatile, but is that what you're looking for? I mean, I thought they were pretty gosh darn versatile last year. I mean, you took a guy who was playing second base, or who was a 3-time All-Star at shortstop, and moved him to second base. That's pretty versatile.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, this year's going to be tough to live up to last year, even if they stayed the same.
I think the one thing that you'll see that was very frustrating to all of us last year was Castro was very Soriano-ish, where he could go 6 weeks like he did at the end of the season and be the Cubs' best player. But then he could go the 6 previous weeks and be the Cubs' worst player.
Right.
And I think what you're going to get with Zobrist is you're going to get some consistency, 1, and 2. 2, you're going to get an experienced professional who's coming off of a World Series who knows what it takes to win. And it sounds to me like Castro was very well thought of by his teammates. But now you're getting that guy in there who's a little Dexter Fowler-ish, a little Miguel Montero, who brings a little stability and leadership. I think Castro was a good guy. I don't know that he was a leader.
Yeah, maybe they're looking at it. Zobrist could be a better, veteran presence for the position players with a little bit more consistency than, say, what's his face? Catcher.
Miguel Montero?
No. Ross.
Oh, David Ross.
Ross brought that veteran type attitude, clubhouse guy. This is a clubhouse guy. This is a hustle guy. You know how Madden always had the respect 90, and I always noticed that Sterling Castro didn't really on and off respect 90, where Zobrist would be more of that type. I guess he gives you more stability up the middle, which is good because that helps your pitchers out if you have good defense up the middle. It's just you got to get that last outfield spot, I guess.
Yeah, the Cubs definitely got older. They definitely got more mature in the last couple of weeks. Let's put it that way. They're definitely more mature than they were before. You don't know what it was like in the clubhouse last year. I mean, that's the thing that we just don't know. I mean, you heard rumors of certain Rookie of the Years going out and not being able to play the full day the next day.
Right.
Things like that nobody knows if it's true or not. Now, if some of them things were true, we all know Castro has a little bit of a history of going out and people shooting at him. So this could be just as much a clubhouse move as it is anything else. And again, that's with nothing that says, other than a little bit of history off the field, there's nothing other than that Starlin Castro was a good teammate. Good teammate doesn't always equal good leader, though. And you know what the thing is? You didn't get any worse offensively. You're going to get the same thing offensively from power and everything else. You're getting more you're getting a better OBP, and you're getting a lot less strikeouts. So that vaunted young Cubs hitting attack is still intact. It's just a little bit older at one position.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. I guess we'll have to see what more moves they make. I'd like to see them maybe get a young, potentially frontline pitcher in a couple years type.
Yeah, and maybe that's what they're looking at with this Warren guy, is maybe they're looking at it and going, hey, this guy has a chance to be Jason Hamill when Jason Hamill was good. Maybe that's what they're thinking with this guy. I mean, he throws 94. He's got better than average fastball. So maybe that's what they're looking at, right? Or maybe that's what they're looking at, is this guy can come in and solidify a 4 spot in the order. Now, my guess is what'll happen is they're going to go into spring training, and the Cubs are going to say, okay, Hendricks, Hamill, Warren, Cahill. If they think Cahill's going to be in that running, it's your guys' job to win these last 2 spots. We know who our 1 through 3 is going to be. We're trying to figure out 4 and 5. You guys got to pitch well in Arizona.
I think Warren is just part of the pitching depth. I think there's got to be more moves from the Cubs. I think Warren is pitching depth. I mean, Warren, bullpen starter.
So do you think
Cahill, bullpen starter. Wood, bullpen starter.
So do you think that the move to trade Castro was a move, A, to free up a position, B, because they got a good starter in return, or C, was a salary dump?
You know what I'm thinking?
What's that?
And I've always, I guess I never really mentioned this before, and I part of me thinks that this might be even a Theo ego thing.
It wasn't his guy?
Wasn't his guy.
Well, that would be the same with Baez then.
Exactly. Whose name's been floating around the trade rumors this last couple of days? Baez.
It very well
Is that
could
a
be.
steel guy? Absolutely not. That was a Jim Hendry lucky I picked him type.
I just saw a tweet that came out. It's just it says Hot Stove Cubbies. It says, I'm told the Cubs are not close to being done with looking at center field and starting pitching both in free agent and in trade market. Hayward's still very much in play.
Good. Then that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
If the Cubs got Lackey, who is a bulldog pitching, right? You're going to get 200 innings out of that guy, 200 quality innings.
Right.
He's got playoff experience. The Angels still talk about how tough he was in the playoffs. He was tough with the Red Sox. And quite frankly, he was tough last year with the Cardinals.
Right. Until
Baez ruined it for him.
Right.
He had one bad inning. Then you get a quality up the middle. You get, the Cubs can't be done.
No.
There's no way.
Well, it's kind of like
you could get a really good young pitcher, major league pitcher, for Baez.
Right. I think
I saw that the Diamondbacks gave up the farm for frickin' Shelby Miller.
Oh yeah, I think that's why I think this is more about a salary dump than it was about anything else. I think it gave the Cubs a little bit of depth behind on the mound, but I think it was more about a salary dump than anything else. And what does the salary dump bring is the next question. Because like we said, we were doing the math before free agency started, and we thought it was about $20 million to get back up to where they were. So we thought the Cubs had $30 to $40 million to spend. Well, the signings that they've had this week and the trades they've made this week get them back up to right about. Hold on 1 second. Get them right back up to about where they were last year. So now it's a matter of what are they going to do with that extra $20 million or so that we thought that they would end up having.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks gave up, it's almost like the Diamondbacks are really going for it this year. What did they give up? I just saw it. It was who was it? Inciarte or Incarte or
yeah, they got I mean, they were asking for a ton.
And I think that's why the Cubs wanted him, but I think the Braves were like, no, we want this guy, and this guy, and the Cubs were like, no. We're not that desperate to sell out the farm. You do realize we won 97 games last year with two pitchers that could start in the playoffs and bullpen days.
Right.
And
Ender, Inciarta, and others will go to the Braves. Diamondbacks have agreed to write for the Braves. According to the deal, is pending physical. Center fielder A.J. Pollock is not in the trade. Miller, blah 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 blah, and we'll give Arizona. Arizona's got some. So basically, there we go. Basically, here he is. The Braves ended up trading away Jason Hayward for Ender Inciarte. He's still. Let's see. He had 303 last year. 524 at bats. 6 home runs, 45 RBIs. Only struck out 58 times, which is good. So he must be a Punch and Judy type hitter, would be my guess. Bats left, throws left. 5'10", 185. Let's see. Where's the stolen bases at? 21 stolen bases. So that's one of them, and he must have got some. Obviously, they got some good minor league players in too. You there?
Yeah, I was reading an article about. It looks like Hayward is still in play.
Yeah.
So I the thing is if you give up, see the Cubs lose their first round pick right this year.
Yeah, but they're going to get one back if they don't sign. Dexter Fowler.
And then if they sign Hayward, they would lose the second round pick.
Right.
I don't know. You know what? They got to be doing more.
They have to be. I don't, because there's holes. I mean, they're not going to leave with holes. I mean, that's just they don't have anybody to fill that spot right now. So they're going to they have to be going and filling those holes. I mean, there's just no way around it.
My guess is they're just fighting the Cardinals right now as far as money on Hayward.
Right. Right.
That's where you get Madden in there to sell it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if Madden came to me, if I was chasing Hayward, far from it. But if I was chasing Hayward, then I know who my coach was last year, who was a stick in the mud. And then I've got this guy, Joe Mann, it's like, hey, man, come join us.
Right.
You know, just that laid back, we're going to win this thing, and just powerful messages just to make you pumped up. Joe Mann can make me pumped up to have diarrhea. If I had diarrhea, Joe Mann would make it sound like I was pooping out marshmallows. He would sell that sucker. I'd be like, okay, I'm signing with the Cubs, even if it's $1 million less a year or whatever.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's what they've got to look for is, can they sell this somehow to Jason Hayward? Because Hayward said, everybody says this, but they all say, are they they want to win. Winning's the first thing. Well, you know what? This is where you find out. Because he just got his butt kicked by them.
Well, and you would think, and you would look over at the Cubs dugout and go, geez, these guys are just having fun. They have no care in the world.
Right.
They don't know what a grind is. Look at these guys. They party every victory, even if it's the second victory of the season. They party like they won the division.
Right. 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 No, I agree. I think there's definitely more to come. There's definitely more to come. So
I think you're right. I think Castro was more of a salary dump than anything.
Yeah, it just seems that way to me with the way they are. With the way they're making it sound, it certainly seems like it was more of a salary dump than anything else. So, and I think it's just a matter of clearing. Now, I think they would also, my opinion is I think they'd get rid of Hamill, and I think they'd probably get rid of Montero if they could. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think if it came down to the right deal, I think Hamill... Hamill, I think, will be easier to move just because everybody looks for pitching.
Right.
And even if the Cubs had to spend 50 to 75% of his salary to get rid of him, the Cubs would do it as long as it's good for the Cubs, obviously.
Right.
But I could see him being thrown in with a trade with Javi Baez to get some, pitcher.
Oh, yeah. The Braves got the number one pick from last year's draft too. The shortstop Dansby Swanson, pitcher Aaron Blair. Wow. That's quite the haul. They got the number one. Team is close to signing free agent pitcher Mike Leake. So they're going to sign Mike Leake on top of that?
The Cubs are?
No, the Diamondbacks.
They're going to be tough.
Aaron Blair. Well, and it says, all it says is team is close to signing free agent pitcher Mike Leake. Well, which team is that?
Giants. Pirates. Pirates don't have any money. What do they get?
Well, I'll tell you. If the Cubs go and get Hayward, the Cardinals are going. I mean, because the Cardinals got some money to spend too. They just signed that huge television contract. They got some money to spend.
They might be waiting for a lot for next year too, because then that's when Matt Holliday comes off the books.
They might. I mean, and who knows what the free agent class looks like next year?
I think they're debating. I mean, I think a big money for them is Hayward. I think that's where it comes down to. It Cubs Cardinals for Hayward at this point. That would be my thinking, because you think about it, the Yankees have already said, "Look, we're done. We're done. We don't have any money to spend like that."
Right.
Toronto doesn't need him. That's your other big one. Angels aren't going to sign him. Dodgers won't sign him. And maybe it comes down to the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, and the Cubs.
Right.
Because they were talking about that Chris guy from Baltimore.
Gaussman?
Big power guy.
Gaussman?
First baseman, I think.
Oh, Chris Davis. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chris Davis.
Yeah. That would be.
They were, Toronto was talking about signing that guy, or going after that guy, I should say.
Well, if the Cubs can steal away Hayward, that would make them probably the winners of the offseason, even though they didn't get their ace pitcher, which they thought. But remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and we didn't think that's what they needed. We thought they needed a 2-3 type of pitcher, possibly two of them, and then get Hayward. But now if you can get Hayward and Zobrist, they're gonna be the favorites to win the World Series. I mean, they already are the favorites. They will definitely be the favorites to win the World Series.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, now that we've kind of talked it out a little bit, it does kind of set up nicely for them to. I think it sets them up nicely for them to get Hayward. I don't think now there's a question of them trying for Hayward.
Right.
And it sets them up perfectly. You know what set all this up perfectly, and as much as I hate to say it, was signing Lackey.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I think once they realized Price's enormous contract, it came down to the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Cardinals, and the Cubs. And the Cubs, I guess, finished second. And the Cubs offered them some real good cash.
Right.
So that tells me that they have money to spend.
Right.
It's just the Red Sox just laid down some mega cash, and the Cubs were like, dude, we're not going to compete with that, especially when you have Lester. And then you have Arrieta.
Right.
I don't think the Cubs want to spend $22 million a year on 3 pitchers, so that'd be $64 million a year on just your first 3 starters.
Right.
So I think the Cubs, you know what? This is why I like QC Sports Inferno and ZRadio. It could talk me out and calm me down a little bit. Because I was kind of fuming the moment I heard they signed Zobrist, and then you said he was like 30.
Oh, I thought he was like 800 years old.
38 or something. Then my blood was boiling even higher.
Yeah, I thought he was like 800 years old.
Like,
I had him confused with Lackey.
So yeah, then that would be fine. He'd be 38.
The production numbers as far as the power numbers aren't going to be any different than what Castro provided. Actually, they maybe even be a little bit less. But he hits left-handed, and he doesn't strike out hardly at all. Plus, he's got a good OBP. I still don't think his defense is going to be better than Castro's, my opinion.
I think it'll be more consistent than Castro's.
Yeah, it might be more consistent, but I
Castro
don't think it'll be better.
Castro could make a play because he was a shortstop.
Right.
And he was a shortstop, and then the Cubs were like, we're demoting you. This Addison Russell is just, he's a waste over there at second.
Right.
Everybody knew it, but, they had to switch it at their own pace. Madden knew the clubhouse more than we did.
Right.
I'm sure Madden was like, dude, we got to put this kid at shortstop right off the bat. Well, then, if you do it, then you really ruin Castro's mindset. I think what helped was Castro was starting to struggle.
Right.
And then I think the Cubs set up the opportunity to kind of like kick him while he's down, so it's all in one basket, so we could freaking fill that basket up all at once, and it worked out. To Castro's credit, I got to give the guy credit. I mean, and to think back, he was my Jay Cutler of the Cubs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my first thought was, God, I'd rather keep Castro over Zobrist because Castro's 25.
Right.
And Zobrist is 30, is 58, according to Mike. And I thought,
and that was my thoughts, too. Was it was because of the big age difference is the reason I wanted him. And plus, when Castro got benched, I was all for Castro getting benched. But throughout last year, we talked about it before the beginning of the year. I said, hey, why is everybody so hard on Castro? I know he had one bad season, but he's a 3-time All-Star. And people can say it's because of they had to have a rep. No, it was because he's one of the top young hitting shortstops in the history of the game. Not just in the last few years, in the history of the game. He's one of the top 3 or 4 hitting shortstops by the time he's hit 25. So you just don't get rid of those type of players. I mean, if the guy kept going with these stats, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's just plain and simple. He'd be in the Hall of Fame. But now you've got some guys who could potentially be better.
And he'll help out the Yankees because the Yankees can look at it and say, well, look, because the Yankees have that young shortstop.
Yeah, they'll put him at second.
Well, yeah, they'll put Castro at second, but if that young shortstop needs a break or that young shortstop just tanks, you got Castro.
Right.
And you're what, 2 years, a year removed from Jeter, so he doesn't have to, he's not Jeter's shadow.
Right.
So he doesn't have that pressure. The only thing that I think is going to be interesting is because Castro, I mean, every manager the Cubs have had, the last 3 managers, have benched the guy for lack of hustle. It'll be interesting to see what Joe Girardi does. You know how Girardi is.
Right.
He's a military guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's how he is.
If he's not honed in all the time, then you're in big trouble.
You're right. Because, Joe Girardi he's a dick.
Right. Right.
He runs a tight ship. So it'll be interesting to see how he does, and he could respond very well.
It'll be culture shock going from Joe Madden to Joe Girardi.
Right. Which was funny because a couple years ago, we were like, oh, hire Girardi. Man, if we did, we wouldn't have Madden. That Madden thing that fell in the Cubs' lap.
Right.
That's why I still to this day make fun of Cubs fans that were all mad that, Rick Renteria, well, he got hosed. Well, he got hosed because the best manager in baseball fell in the Cubs' lap.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Renteria did a decent job. I mean, the Cubs were still rebuilding hard and still trading away players, and he had the Cubs playing pretty good. But look, you got your experience, and hey, have fun in the South Side, enjoying hearing all the conversations in the stands because only 4 people show up.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys know that Sally, she broke her nail? How'd you know that? I could hear her all the way in the outfield talking to her.
Yeah, there's gonna be another shoe to turn here. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But to start to then switch the subjects, we'll keep up to date here on this as it goes on. But